Good morning, I'm Josh, and welcome to Third City Christian Church. Our worship service starts in just a minute and will last about an hour. But before we get started, we want to share a few things with you and your family. Groove, our Sunday morning kids programming, is taking place right now in Kid City. Team members are standing by in the plaza to help get your child checked in. We want every child at Third City to grow in wisdom and stature just like Jesus did when he was a kid. Our vision at Third City is to live out Love Unlimited, and we want to make it easy for you to know what your next step is. Whether it's serving, getting baptized, or growing in community with others, we want to connect you with resources that will help you worship, serve, and grow. So stop at the hub in the plaza to find out what opportunities are available. We would love to meet you, answer any questions you may have, and if you're new here, we have a free gift for you. We're so glad that you're here with us this morning. Be sure to connect with us at Third City C on social media and download the Third City app. We exist to worship God, serve Him with our lives, and grow as followers of Jesus Christ. Third City is Love Unlimited.
Good morning, Third City Christian Church. We're so glad you guys are here with us. Whether you're here in GI or in Broken Bow, we're glad. Would you guys stand to your feet? We're going to worship together. a second this morning and just greet a couple people around you. As you guys make your way back to your seats this morning, we just want to ask you guys to slide into the center of your rows. That would be awesome. We got a lot of people still trying to get sat down. So if you could just slide in, that'd be great. We're going to continue worshiping this morning. We're in our Uproar series still.
When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Yes, Jesus, you're my hope and stay. thank you so much for every single person in this room and Broken Bow, watching online, for coming to join us this morning. We know that we do need you. We are broken people living in a broken world who need your love. And we need it, and you give that love even though we don't deserve it. And we're so thankful for that, Lord. And we're so thankful that we can lean on you any hour of the day. As we listen to the message this morning, this series has been so powerful. We can come together to talk about things that are hard to talk about, Lord. And I just pray that as we listen this morning, that you give us open ears, open hearts, to know that we can not only lean on you, but we can lean on each other. It's in your name we pray these things. Amen.
You can have a seat.
Well, good morning, Third City. You are all looking very well rested this morning with your extra hour of sleep, except, of course, if you are a parent with small children and they do not understand the concept of setting your clock back and getting an extra hour of sleep. But don't worry, I've been there. There's hope. You're going to be dragging your grumpy teenager out of bed before you know it, I promise. So whether you are sleep deprived or well rested, we are glad you're here. Welcome this morning. The video that we just saw, those were some of the images from a recent missions trip to Nairobi, Kenya. We took a group of 24 people to go to Nairobi, Kenya with Missions of Hope International. In just a couple of weeks, we're going to have the opportunity to see and hear their stories. You're going to be able to hear about lives changed in Nairobi. You'll learn more about our partnership with Missions of Hope International. And you're also going to learn how you can be a part of that work that's happening from right here in Grand Island. You do not need to travel to Nairobi, Kenya to be a part of that. And so you're going to want to mark your calendars. That's going to be November 24th. You're not going to want to miss that Sunday and learn how you can get involved. The next Third City in You is coming up on November 17 during the 10:15 service. That's a great opportunity to learn more about Third City and also find out how you can get more connected. You know, being a connected part of this church is such an important piece to being a growing Christian. And we want you to feel part of this family, and that's a great first step. So you can register for that out at the hub, or you can go to thirdcityc.org. Right now, we're in the middle of a sermon series called Uproar. We have been looking at some of those tough questions that when they're brought up, they cause an uproar. So this week, we're going to be looking at loneliness and the importance of community. I think it's a very relevant topic for all of us. I know Scott has a great message prepared, so let's get started.
Well, good morning. Glad to see you this morning. We're in this series that we're calling Uproar, and we're looking at things that can create turmoil in our life if we don't approach them in the way that God created us to. And so today I want to talk to you about something that I think affects all of us at some level, and some of us very deeply, and that's the issue of loneliness. But it's really about having a friend. Having a friend. I heard about a mom who was going to the city to visit her son who had a female roommate, and when mom got to the apartment, the red flags were kind of waving, you know, and moms have instincts about those things, and I guess sons do too, because At the door, as she was leaving, they had a nice dinner together. As she was leaving, the guy said, "Mom, I know what you're thinking, and Jennifer and I are just friends." About a week later, Jennifer came to her roommate, the boy, and said, "Hey, have you seen this silver serving plate? Ever since your mom was here, I've noticed it's missing. Do you think she put it in a weird place or even took it?" Well, he said, "I don't think so, but I'll email her." So he wrote an email to his mom. "Dear Mom, I'm not saying you took it, but since you were here, we can't find the silver serving plate." And in reply, she wrote, "Dear son, I'm not saying you and Jennifer are more than just friends, but the fact is, if Jennifer was sleeping in her own bed, she would have found the silver serving plate." Ooh, mama. I don't care who you are, that's kind of funny, but the fact is, there's no such thing as just friends. A friend is more valuable than really almost anything in life. As a matter of fact, Howard Hughes, who was the wealthiest man in the world at one time, and when he died was worth something like $4 to $6 billion, he made this statement: "I would have given it all away for one good friend." And with all of his investments, I wonder was he investing in people? Why didn't he have friends? Now, friendship started at the very beginning. If you know anything about the Bible, you know that God created, and Genesis 1 says he created light. He made light, and then he said it's good. And then he created the heavens and the stars and everything. It's good. And he created the earth, and then he started to fill the earth with things like water and plant life, vegetation, and all the beauty that we have around us. And he said it's good. And then he made beets and geese poop, the geese that poop on yards. And he said, "What did I do?" No, he said it's good too. Everything's good, right? Everything was good. And then he created the human being, the man named Adam. And in the second chapter, we see there's something that's not good in creation. And he says it's not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve. He created another person. Now, before God created Eve, Adam had a relationship. He had a relationship with God, and yet God knew that the human being had to have more than one. It's not good for man to be alone. Jesus was asked what the two greatest laws of life are, and he said, look, it's number one, love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But he said the second's like it, love others, love your neighbor as yourself. So relationships all about God's creation. And if you don't have God in relationship, and if you don't have friends in your life, it's going to create uproar in your life. You and I are created for relationship, both with God and with each other. But today I want to challenge you to look beyond marriage when it comes to Genesis 1 through 3. I want to challenge you to look at this spectrum of it's not good to be alone, and that's bigger than marriage. As a matter of fact, I would say this: a person can remain unmarried for a lifetime, and they can be healthy. But a person cannot have life without friends and be healthy, because you can't do it alone. You were created for relationship. Now, it's sometimes hard to find a good friend. You go through seasons where you maybe don't think you have any. There was a football coach in the 70s named Pepper Rogers. He coached for the UCLA Bruins. He's a pretty successful coach. But he went through a bad stretch of football. We can relate to any amens on that. You know what that feels like? Going through a bad stretch of football. Anyway, his team was not doing very well, and so he was under pressure from the fans and from the university and even from his internal relationships. And so he even said, it was hard for me at that time to find a friend. He said that at that time, his dog was his only true friend. And so he went to his wife and he said, honey, every man needs at least 2 friends. So she bought him another dog. We are wired to have friends, to be in relationship. God knows it's not enough, even just with him and us, if we don't have friends. We get weird. That's what happens. We get weird if we don't have friends. It's kind of like the Tom Hanks movie Castaway. You ever seen that movie? If we're alone too long, We find ourselves talking to ourselves, performing self-dentistry, and getting advice from a volleyball. I mean, it's just not a good thing. It's not good. Now, I like to be alone. My bucket gets filled when I'm alone for a while, for a short while. But I've got to go find people after a short time. I've got to be around my wife, my kids, my friends. When you get married, you might have found out that some of the things you were doing before marriage made you kind of weird, because then your wife points it out. Like your wife might eventually have to say to you, normal people don't walk around in their underwear eating cereal out of a skillet with a spatula. Because you get weird if you're not around people. God realized Adam was getting weird, so he created Eve. And by the way, now we know it's not good to be alone, but the fact is, when there's more than one person, it creates sin. At least the potential's there, right? Things like jealousy, envy, striking out in anger, selfishness, you name it, the gamut of things that we do to each other. Yet, God created us to be in community with each other. Now, Solomon, who wrote books in the Old Testament, he was journaling, and he has a book called Ecclesiastes. I think he understands the concept of friendship by what he writes. Let me read several of those verses in chapter 4. Verse 9, 2 are better than one because they have a good return on their labor. In other words, when there's more than one, you get more done. And that's true in virtually every area of life if it's the right person. Ecclesiastes 4:10, if either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity the man who falls down and has no one to help him up. No one should have to navigate through the dark moments of life without having someone to hold them up and to help them get up off the ground if they go down. This room is probably full of stories where people have been in a bad way, going through a bad time, they've fallen down in life, and someone came at the right time and got them off the ground. That's what a good friend does. I experienced that just in my recent surgery. Just the many of you who committed to pray for me, it mattered so much. The people who came and sat with Jackie and Taylor at the hospital and hung out with them and were there with me right afterwards. The church elders who came and during the course of my recovery and encouraged me. And the many of you who provided friendship through cards and through meals and just through a good word. I mean, it just makes all the difference in the world. It made it so much easier for me to be in this period of my life. And we need to keep doing that for each other. Not just the preacher, but everybody in our church. It makes all the difference in the world. Helen Keller, who was blind, said, walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light. And Mother Teresa said this, a friend is one who walks in when everyone else is walking out. Ecclesiastes 4:11. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And the concept there is, in their day and age, when travelers would move around, they'd probably have to sleep outdoors at night. They'd be in the desert where the temperature dropped. And so it was very common for people to huddle together to use body heat to survive the night, to bring warmth. And that's what we need to do in the cold times of life. We come together, so to speak, to bring warmth when we're going through grief or through marital despair or when our kids are going crazy and we don't have the answers or whatever it is. We need to warm each other up with fellowship and friendship because we're not meant to live alone. Though one may be overpowered, verse 12, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. There's safety in numbers. Someone to watch my back and to keep track when I can't see. I have blind spots. So do you. You need friends who will know your blind spots and encourage you to see the truth. Now, friendship comes with a warning. The warning is, you will tend to become like those that you do life with. You will tend to become like them. I think probably the greatest predictor of your future is seen in the people that you do life with. And if you're with healthy, Positive people, you will tend to be healthy and positive. If you surround yourself with people who are wrecking their lives spiritually, wrecking their relationships with sin, if you are putting your life in their hands, chances are that's going to be your trajectory in life. So when you hear the Bible say 2 are better than 1, it isn't that any 2 or 3 are better than 1. It's that the right 2 or 3 are better than 1. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise, because a companion of fools suffers harm. The wrong kinds of friends can be toxic. You ever had a dog that prefers toilet water over fresh stuff? I mean, you can put a nice big old bowl of nice fresh tap water down or whatever out of the hose, and he'll make a beeline right to the toity, and you're thinking, what a dumb dog. But there's something sweet about that toilet water. I don't know what it is. It's just the naughtiness of it or something. I don't know. But what you know is there's bacteria teeming in that little bowl. He doesn't know that until it's too late. And the wrong kinds of friends can be that way. Flavorful on the surface, but harmful underneath. And by the way, negative friendships are like accomplices. You'll love being with them, but really the influence is telling. I mean, their negative perspective on work, for instance, starts working on you. And you start taking that attitude into your workplace. Or their relationship stress that they create in their life, in their marriage, or in their divorce, or in their remarriage, or in their parenting skills that aren't so great, that starts to affect you, and you start to see your stuff negatively like that. The bad habits rub off. And so what happens is you have relational uproar, work stress uproar, educational uproar if it's your school because you got bad habits, you're not studying, instead you're partying. I mean, it happens, right? Now, by the way, are they people, these friends that are taking you down that path? Of course they are. Do they need friends? Of course they do. They need companionship. But here's the question. Who is influencing who? That's what you have to answer. Proverbs 26, many claim to have unfailing love, but a faithful person who can find. You ever watch that show Pawn Stars? So the gist of it is there's this pawn shop in Vegas, and people bring in all kinds of stuff. And someone will bring in something like cufflinks that have the initials JFK, and they'll say, these belong to John F. Kennedy. Or they'll bring in a musket that they claim belonged to Davy Crockett, and he fired at the Alamo. Or they'll bring in, a guitar, and they'll say, this was Elvis Presley's 5th guitar, or whatever it is. Well, the Pawn Stars, what they have to do in order to really buy into the story is they have to authenticate the item. Without authentication, they aren't going to buy it, not for the price that they're asking. And that's what friends have to do. Friends need to authenticate. If they're real friends, they'll prove it. Many times, the first step away from God is a step away from authentic friends of God, people of God. Maybe you have a kid in college and you feel like your kid's straying away, and you see it in them that they're just not as spiritual as they seem to be when they went off to college, or their friendships seem to have taken them off the right path. Well, it's probably because they've strayed away from the people of God, a very common thing for college students to do. And that's why we're so adamant about encouraging you, if you go to one of our state colleges, to find Christian Student Fellowship, where you can at least have an opportunity to have friends who will keep you on the path. They're not perfect people, but at least they have spirituality that encourages that. And if you find yourself drifting from the faith, you got to look around and say, who am I standing next to? Who is it that is with me in this? You need friends who will tell you the truth. You need friends who will hold you accountable. As a matter of fact, Judd Wilhite wrote a book called The God of Yes. It's on Amazon if you're interested, The God of Yes. And he says there are two qualities of a great friend. He said everyone needs a fan and a coach. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to describe very briefly what it means to be a fan, to be a coach. And I'm going to ask you to do an inventory, do a friend inventory. And do it both ways. Say, okay, do I have people in my life like this? But here's another thing. Am I being this kind of person to others? Okay? So a fan, someone who sees things in you that maybe you can't see. Someone who sees potential in you that you're not owning up to. Someone who believes you can do something when you're doubting it. Someone who inspires you to greater things, that moves the needle in your life to go higher, bigger, farther. Someone who doesn't zap the energy out of you, but rather fills you with vigor and gives you encouragement and helps you to move forward when you're afraid. That's what a fan does. Someone who gives you a pat on the back. Someone who doesn't quit on you, who believes in you, who won't give up on you. Husker fans, hear me. True fans never give up. True fans, we find ourselves in a test with our friends, right? And what kind of fan am I? I mean, we haven't won a conference championship in 20 years. We haven't been to a bowl game that really meant anything since 2001. We haven't had a winning season since 2017. The test is on. When it comes to being a fan, what kind of fan are you? I mean, you care deeply. You care. But are you going to go the distance? Are you going to be the encourager? Are you going to step up and give encouragement? Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. We need a fan in our life, more than one is better, who will stick with us when we're going through the rough stuff of life. And then we need a coach. A friend who is a coach is that person that cheers you forward when you need to be cheered on, and someone who kicks you in the tail a little bit when you need some encouragement. Sometimes it's a pat on the back. Sometimes it's a kick in the can. I mean, whatever you need, they're there for you. A good coach can do both. Someone who cares more about you than they do even the relationship. Do you have someone in your life like that? Are you in someone's life doing that for them? They will risk saying the hard thing to help you. They will know when to encourage, and they will know when to challenge. That's what a coach does. Ecclesiastes 7:5. It is better to heed the rebuke of a wise person than to listen to the song of fools. That's a coach. Person who's bold enough to come into your throne room and say, hey, king, you got a problem, and the problem is you. Hey, queenie, you're looking at this selfishly. This is about you and what you're thinking and what you're doing, and they call you out. Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. You ever sharpened a tool or a pair of scissors, or you ever used a grinder? I mean, it's a very harsh thing. The sparks fly. There's a lot of heat that has to happen to be generated to make that happen. That's what a friend can do, create the kind of heat to make you better, to reveal the truth to you, to grow you. Some people will never have a friend who's a coach, and here's why. Because you won't allow for it. You aren't mature enough to let somebody speak that honestly to your life. You will not grow as a Christian. You will not grow as a person because it takes wisdom to accept that kind of friend, that kind of challenge. And some people, they just won't allow it. They're too shallow. They're too immature. They will defriend their only true friends who will say truth to them. How many of you use Facebook once in a while? Show of hands. Come on, don't be shy. Come on. You know what it looks like. Someone says something really stupid on Facebook. It happens day in and day out. And you want to kind of reach back in and say, hey, wait a minute. And they defriend you. I think that's happening in real time with people's lives. As soon as someone challenges you, you push them away. You know, I've known friends who have wealth or status, then they lose it, and they say, you find out real quickly who your real friends are, right? When the fame is gone, when the money is gone. Now, we need a friend, we need a fan, we need a coach. And one of the things we do here, you hear me say it all the time, and I know it's broken record, but that's why we do Rooted. Because Rooted, I think, is a great way for a person who's coming into a church to say, I need relationships with God and with people. I need them to be strong. And Rooted helps with that. It's where we work on deep relationships with God, deeper with people. I've had people in my Rooted groups who have become fans and coaches for me, and I relish that. I hope I'm doing that for them too. So I would encourage you to get involved. If you're in turmoil, if you're lonely, if you're experiencing inner uproar, do this personal evaluation. Ask the question, do I need better friends who will help me in life? Do I need to learn? And do I need to grow as a friend so I can be a fan, I can be a coach to the people around me? Because who knows? You start doing that and it changes everything. Hebrews chapter 10:24 says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Now, we live in Nebraska. We know what spurring's all about. Sometimes a horse or a mule needs a little jolt in the haunches, if you know what I mean. I mean, what happens when you spur an animal? It bucks, it spits and snorts snot all over the place. It might even try to bite you. But if it's the right kind of encouragement, it moves it to the right place. And men, you need someone who will spur you sometimes, spur you on, who will give you a little jolt when you're off track. You're treating your wife like she's garbage. Why are you doing that? You're spending too much time at fill in the blank, and your kids are running around town like they run the place, and it's not good. What's going on? How can I help you get back on track? You're spending way too much time at the sports bar. Ladies, same way. You know, they might buck, they might blow a little snot, but they'll appreciate it if they heed the advice. Girls, you need women in your lives who will say, you said you were bringing that up for prayer, now it's turned into gossip. You seem to be able to find all the faults in your husband. Is there anything good about the man? Can you say those things? See, you need friends like that who will be honest. And that's only going to happen if you're that way. Someone who wants more for you than you even want for yourself. And the alternative is not good. When you walk away from a friend like that, for a person who would tell you what you want to hear, I promise you that leads to relational chaos. Don't confuse being judged with being held accountable. Because that's what happens, right? You'll say this, people will say this, oh, I'm done with you. All you ever do is judge me. But don't confuse judgment with accountability. Have you had people who say that to you? I'm going to go over here with this crowd because at least they don't judge me. At least they don't judge me. But you know what? You know why they don't judge you? Because they care about you this much. And do you know why you hang with them? Because you don't want to be accountable to anybody. That's why. And they will be gone tomorrow, and you will find out what loneliness really is. Now, I would guess that there's very few people in this room who want to be known as God's enemy. But look at what James chapter 4 says. You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world means enmity against God? Therefore, anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Look, James is just saying that if you're not intentional about your relationships, you're going to get there, enemy of God, by default. And here's how it sounds, and I've heard this. You've heard it too. These are my girls. We've been doing this for years. We go out every couple weeks, and we go out to the bars, and we get a little crazy, and we tie one on, but they're my friends. And by the way, I'm trying to evangelize them. Yeah, well, how long have you been trying to evangelize them? And who's evangelizing who? And how's that going for you? How's that making your marriage better? How's that making your being a mom better? How's that making you better as a leader in your community? How's that making you better and closer to God? See, that's what you have to ask. My buddies have been doing this big hunt for years, and yeah, we get a little bit crazy, but what happens in South Dakota stays in South Dakota. No, it doesn't. It gets embedded right here. And you bring that home with you, and it creates chaos for you, and you know it. Be honest about your friends. Look around. Are they lifting you up, or are they creating uproar in your life? The gist of it is this. Loneliness can be experienced in a crowd too. There are likely many people who are here today who have a deep sense of loneliness right now. And it may not be your fault, but there might be something that you can do about it. There is a friend that is showing you the kind of love that all of us deserve, and maybe none of us do. And that is God through Jesus. In John 15, Jesus calls us his friends. He says that we can come to him for nourishment, to be fed in our lives, to be encouraged, to share in his family business in the kingdom of God, to partner with him to reach a lonely and dying world with the hope that comes from Christ, to help people discover the joy of being in relationship with God and relationship with his people. It's our calling. For Jesus, there is no such thing as just friends. He laid his life down for us. Lord, we're going to come to you now and we're going to commune, which is always that great reminder of the price that you paid as our friend to save our souls. So Lord, let us not take this moment lightly. Give it all the energy and prayer and thoughtfulness that the moment deserves, as we realize that there's a God who loves us that deeply, that he would sacrifice himself for our sake so he could call us friends. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
died for me. There is a grave that holds nobody. Now the power lives in me. I count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you are.
For Adam, relationship with God was the foundation. And for us, for you, for me, it's got to start with God and us. If we're going to be able to be the kind of friend that we need to be for another person, or to receive friendship the way it's meant to be received, then it's got to start with God. I don't know where you are in life, but maybe you and God have some work to do. And that's why we're here. We invite you into relationship with God. We want to walk with you as you walk with Him. And then we also want to encourage you to be the kind of person that He's created you to be. So let us be that for you. We invite you into this fellowship, the church, the body of believers. We're not perfect, but we're trying to figure out who God is, and we'd love to do that with you.
As we continue and finish up this morning in worship, I don't know where you guys are all at with your friendships and relationships, but just like Scott just said, just so grateful that we have a God that loves us, that knows the things that we're going through, the struggles, the relationships that maybe we don't have, or the hard ones that we do. And He loves us in the midst of those things. And we can trust Him to carry us through. Let's sing this out together. Try to